Having beaten Napoli 4-0 10 days prior to this Champions League matchup, AC Milan were looking to continue their run of form over the Serie A league leaders. In what was anticipated to be a different game tactically, AC Milan set up with their usual 4-2-3-1 formation, with Magnan starting in goals, Theo Hernandez, Tomori, Kjaer and Calabria making up the back four, Tonali and Krunic as the two pivots, with Benacer as the attacking midfielder. Both Rafael Leao and Brahim Diaz on the right and left respectively, and French international striker Olivier Giroud as the sole number 9. With the injured top scorer Victor Osimhen out, Napoli lined up with Meret in goals, a back four of Mario Rui, Min Jae Kim, Rahami and Di Lorenzo. Their midfield consisted of Lobotka, Anguissa and Zielinski, and their front three with Kvaratskhelia, Elmas and Lozano. While setting up on paper in their usual 4-2-3-1 formation, it looked very different on the field in possession. Building out of their own half, both Kjaer and Tomori split very wide, which enabled both Calabria and Hernandez to push up, with Hernandez being the highest of the two fullbacks. This allowed him to get more involved during attacking phases of play, where he would look to receive the ball out wide, and then drive inside where he could then link with more central players. So with the fullbacks not actively being involved during the early phases of build-up, it was then up to Tonali and Krunic to find a way to assist the progression of the ball forward. However, both their roles were distinctly different. With the distances between centre-backs being very large, Krunic ended up dropping in between Kjaer and Tomori and looked to be the link, shifting the ball right to left. He was also often seen starting central and then pushing out wide to create a 3v2 in wide areas, which ended up forcing the left-hand side midfielder for Napoli to make a decision on how high he wanted to press, whether to go and mark Krunic or whether to sit and mark Calabria. Tonali, on the other hand, was seen as that central pivot who was able to shift right and left in order to find a passing lane. But then when the ball progressed beyond the second line of pressure, he would push up and help out with the attack. One of the problems that AC Milan faced early was trying to progress the ball through central areas, since Napoli pushed Lobotka and Anguissa higher and denied the opportunity for Tonali to receive the ball. Since Tonali and Krunic couldn't receive the ball centrally, Tomori and Kjaer were then forced to make longer passes and try to find Benacer and Diaz in a higher line. These longer passes from Tomori and Kjaer to try and find Benacer and Diaz provided the perfect pressing trap for Napoli, since they had a higher concentration of numbers in areas in which they won the ball. Once they won the ball, they were quickly able to break in behind and get forward runners into the box and create goal scoring opportunities by getting crosses into the box or having their wide midfielders cut inside looking for shots on goal. However, in similar situations later in the half when Napoli sat deeper and allowed Kjaer, Krunic and Tomori to circulate the ball, it was then the role of Diaz and Benacer to tuck inside and find passing lanes so that the back line could skip the second line of pressure. Here we see an example of this situation where Napoli is sitting deeper in a mid-block and Tomori, Krunic and Kjaer were able to circulate the ball from left to right. In order for Napoli's front two to push up and put pressure on Krunic, Tomori and Kjaer, their midfield also had to push up as well, otherwise Tonali would be the easy outlet. Once Krunic recognised that the midfield had pushed higher in order to prevent Tonali from receiving the pass, he was then able to find the right moment to split the second line of pressure and find Diaz, who would tuck inside. The solution for Napoli would then be to step their back line up and close the distance between midfield and defence. However, they still had to take into consideration the threat of Giroud and Leao for when Milan went more direct. An example of how Milan set up for the long ball would be to push Giroud across towards either of Napoli's fullbacks to create the 2v1, with either Diaz or Leao looking for those second balls. In this example, we can see that as Kier is about to play directly towards Giroud as the target, Calabria and Krunic make the run deeper as if to receive the pass. What this does is drag both of their markers to create more space in front of Giroud for the second receiver. Leao in this scenario would then move more central to get involved should there be a flick on for him to run onto. What was interesting about the game was that when Milan started with more possession, they were unable to create good scoring chances and capitalise on their possession. However, once Napoli gained composure and held possession for longer periods of time, Milan were then able to create better scoring opportunities off direct counter-attacks and taking advantage of individual superiorities. Prior to Milan scoring in the 39th minute of a deep transition, there were warning signs for Napoli. Rafael Leao with the best opportunity, having received a lob pass from deep and then beating his immediate marker to then beat three other defenders and get a shot on goal within the box. Now we will look at how AC Milan set up out of possession in both their mid-block and high press. When Napoli had comfortable possession around the back line, Milan would look to move towards a 4-2-3-1 mid-block, often looking to try and force Napoli down their left-hand side, with Leao sitting as the higher midfielder. Napoli's midfield three were more dynamic, however, with both Lobotka and Anguissa providing support to the back line, while Zielinski starting from a higher position and roaming more freely down the left-hand side. In situations when Min-Jae Kim was on the ball and comfortable, Giroud would look to divide the field and force the ball wide, with Diaz waiting until the ball had travelled to their left fullback Mario Rui. Once the ball had gone out wide, Diaz would then go and press. Krunic would then pick up Zielinski if he ended up dropping deeper. If Zielinski didn't end up dropping deeper, Krunic would then stay connected higher up the field with Tonali, which would then allow Bennacer to roam and pick up the ball side supporting midfielder for Napoli. When building out from goal kicks, AC Milan then used this as an opportunity to be more aggressive and force Napoli into longer passes and mistakes within their own half. The first time that Napoli play out from the back, they were quite comfortably able to find Anguissa, who ended up dropping deeper as Rahmi gets the ball, who can then link up with Di Lorenzo. This is because of the initial starting position of Tonali, who finds himself too deep, that by the time Anguissa gets the ball, he is nowhere near. The second time they play out, Tonali makes up for his error by starting more closer to Anguissa, and as a result, can't receive the ball and face forward. He even angles his press towards the left-hand side so that as Anguissa receives the ball, the passing lane between him and Di Lorenzo is blocked. However, once Anguissa receives the ball here, he is able to turn centrally with no pressure on his inside. On the third occasion, Tonali started on the side of Anguissa and touch tight, meaning that the pass from Rahmi to Anguissa would be too risky and too far. On this occasion, it also doesn't help that Anguissa's starting position was too high for a safer pass to be made. Finally, the extent of Milan's pressing increased when we saw both Theo Hernandez as the left fullback and Tomori as the left centre-back push up all the way and follow their markers. This forced Napoli to play longer passes and clearances, which as a result forced more turnovers inside Napoli's half and allowed AC Milan to wrestle back the possession stats. Thank you for watching, and I hope you got value from this. If you saw this game, let me know what else you noticed.